Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 377. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot Segulin, the Duke of You Know, and the master of all is not well, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
On this episode, we're going to be talking about the Green Books, the first of a two-part discussion. On this one, we're going to talk about Green Lantern Corp 25 and 26, and Green Lantern's New Guardians, number 26. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Once again, sponsoring this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. I want to shout out over at DCBService.com the 100 Bullets Brother Lano trade paperback. This collects the whole miniseries. It's $16.99 regularly. It's 50% off, only $8.49. This is Brian Azzarello, Eduardo Riso, Dave Johnson. The Eisner Award-winning team behind 100 Bullets reunites to tell the story of the baddest Minuteman of all. When we last saw Lano in 100 Bullets, Dizzy Cordova had shot him in the chest, but Lano was always too tough to die. Now Lano finds himself in Mexico working on the side of the Angels. Collects the entire 8-issue miniseries. And if you miss this, it's just, I can't give it a high enough recommendation. It's just a wonderful series. It's currently ongoing, and it's about to wrap up, and I am just loving every minute of it. So I just wanted to give that recommendation. Remember, they are a Comixology, iVerse Media, and My Digital Comics partner. So if you go to their site and you link your accounts, you're going to earn 5% of those purchases towards your DCB service order. And I want to thank them for sponsoring our show over at InStockTrades.com. I am a huge fan of the 60s Batman show. They just released a trade paperback. It's called Batman 66, the TV show stories. And for the first time, DC Comics collects Batman stories originally published between 1948 and 1966 that were adapted into specific episodes of the classic Batman TV series, starring the Joker, the Penguin, the Riddler, Mr. Freeze, here called Mr. Zero. It features the debut of Batgirl. These stories have never been collected together before. It's Batman number 53, 73, 121, 140, 169, and 170, and Detective Comics 230, 346, and 359. It's a 160-page book. It's $14.99 regularly, 50% off, only $7.49. It's Batman 66, the TV stories trade paperback from InStockTrades.com. If you're picking up the digital first or collecting the Batman 66 comic that's being published right now, this is an excellent companion piece. I just got mine in the mail, and it's wonderful. So I wanted to recommend this one to anybody that's digging that kind of thing like I am. InStockTrades.com is your collected edition source. If you're looking for hardcovers, you're looking for trades, be sure to stop over at InStockTrades.com and get an amazing deal. Remember, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping. James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotlines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on our show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
Nice work, Atom. What are these characters up to?
Jim, our first chat this episode is going to be on Green Lantern Corp number 26. The script is by Van Jensen. The artist is Bernard Chang. Co-plot by Robert Venditti. Colorist Marcelo Maiolio. And apologize for any name butchery there. Letterer is Dave Sharp. Associate editor Chris Conroy. Cover artist Bernard Chang. Group editor is Matt Idelson. Woo! A lot of stuff since we've last talked about the Green Lantern. We've had the Lights Out event that happened, which drastically changed the status quo. The entities are gone. Because of that, we've got a more militant Green Lantern Corps, but a divided Green Lantern Corps as well, based on different ideologies that are going on there. And I think it's a lot more than just two different ideologies going on here. There's the people who are against using the ring because they're afraid they're going to destroy the universe gradually as they do it because they're tapping into the energy of the universe. Then there's the group that believes they need to use the power of the rings to police against the other color corps that are using the power in the universe. So it's an interesting dynamic that's going on here.
Yeah, but it's interesting. One of the things I thought was kind of cool is we did lose the entities except for Parallax.
Right.
Parallax is still in Sinestro, so we still have the yellow entity going around, running around out there, which is going to give the Yellow Corps. I say it's going to give them a little bit of advantage. Plus, we lost the blues. They talked about one of the cores would go away, and we all kept saying we don't want it to be the blues, but they're the ones that got the bullseye on their chest. And sure enough, Blue Lanterns are no more, with exception of Saint Walker, who, as we're going through this, is in a coma, but we will later see him pop out of the coma, which adds to more problems. So it's, I'm like, that's kind of a cool thing with this massive lights out event, that they fundamentally and just completely altered the universe to a point where it's permanently changed, permanently damaged, or can it be fixed? Is there a fix? What's the right course of action? I think that is kind of neat when you have this bad guy, quote unquote bad guy, in Relic, but he was kind of doing the right thing, but just was he doing it the wrong way, or was that the only way of doing it? Was there another option? I love it when you get stories where, like, okay, what's right, what's wrong?
I don't know about you. I was worried when we were getting writer switches that the creative teams that were being announced excited me because I like the quality and caliber of the talent that was being associated with these books, but they were going up against people that set a benchmark so high for the expectations of the Green Lantern books that's a hard thing to follow. Did you see there's going to be a Sinestro solo series coming out?
Ooh, really? I did not see that.
That's coming out of Forever Evil. So we're going to have another Green Lantern book. This one's all going to be on Sinestro, probably addressing a lot of the things you mentioned earlier. The fact that Sinestro is Parallax, or contains the Parallax entity. So that, that's going to be an interesting thing to deal with. And I almost want to say, because in the blurb they were saying, we haven't had like this Sinestro solo series. We did have Sinestro being the lead character in Green Lantern for a while there. This is going to be interesting to see that continuation, because I really liked that. I'm a Hal guy. I love seeing Hal in the forefront, but the idea of having a Sinestro book and be able to continue the foundation that was set by Jeff Johns when he was running him in the book as the lead, to me, how can you not want to see more of that?
Oh, God, yeah. Sinestro is, again, he's one of those great villains in that you can argue and defend some of his actions. And it's not... what he's doing is wrong, and that he is killing people and he has caused the death of people. But on the other hand, when you start looking at some of his motivations, you can say, well, is he trying to do good? Possibly. You get that gray area, but there's such a solid darkness, within it. But then you get these moments, and you're like, is he good? Is he bad? It's so giving him his own solo series, they can really have some fun with that, especially because of the Sinestro Corps. He's got his whole core back, and he's once again in charge of it. And just because the political ramifications within a group like that is going to be different. It's going to have different dynamics, and he's going to have to deal with that sort of, double-cross betrayal and whatnot. So there's going to be some interesting stuff. Really solid possibility of some, this is a character that, has a good ground, good foundation for some, that's neat moments.
Oa's been destroyed. That was a part of the Lights Out event, and I didn't see that coming. I figured... when the battery was destroyed, I figured, okay, they're going to find a way to reconstruct the battery on Oa. I had no idea they were going to destroy Oa. And, obviously there's ways they could always bring the planet back in the future, but for now, the status quo is their home base is Mogo. I love that. To me, that's a really cool use of Mogo. Instead of Mogo being like this background character that only comes out in special events, now Mogo's an integral part of the Green Lantern books. I like that. It adds just a completely different dynamic when you got that opening sequence where they're trying to bring the Citadel to Mogo. This brings up again the problem of the two different philosophies. You've got the Lanterns going up there, the Citadel's coming down too fast. So they want to stop it, so what do? They leap into action. They do what Green Lanterns do. They use their rings. Here's the funny part. These philosophies are both based on things that they don't really 100% know for sure. They don't know if Relic was right. They don't know if what Kyle did, the sacrifice, quote-unquote sacrifice, because we'll talk about that certainly later as well, that Kyle made worked and replenished our energy levels, and obviously what happened with the entities as well, because of the fact that Parallax wasn't a part of that. So, and they know that. So did it reboot it? Did it do? I don't know. This is one of the things that I really like. And also, when the Green Lanterns are tapping into there, are they really destroying the universe? Was Relic right about that? These are questions that are on the table. So they're fighting two different philosophies that they're going based on faith. So it's almost becoming like a religious experience for the Lanterns, where they have to base it on lore. They're really developing their own lore on how the emotional energy really works. And yet they don't 100% understand it. Even the Guardians don't completely understand it. That's something that I really like, because it could be cut and dry. You could put something out there that's completely explained, very cut and dry. Maybe they don't know it, but we as the readers know it. We don't know either. I really find that refreshing, because it's something that we get to explore along the way with the writers and with the characters in the story. This changes something that feels very new and very fresh. It makes you uneasy from time to time, because you can side and understand both sides of the philosophies, especially the not knowing makes you more sympathetic to both. As somebody throws out a good idea or has a speech about what their thinking is, you can't help but sit there and go, whoa, I kind of see that point, but I also see the reason to still be a ring slinger, but have to pick and choose when you use that power. It adds a very different dynamic where I think we, as the readers, typically think, wow, having a Green Lantern ring would be the greatest thing in the world because you could just use it all the time. Think of all the cool things you could do. Well, now there is a downside to it, and it's a major one.
And I like the fact that because with this unknown, they keep throwing out different theories. And when they mention how everything got rebooted and the reservoir of the energy was replenished, well, maybe. We don't know what level it was replenished. And we also don't know if all these other rings are drawing it even deeper, because the Green Lanterns was tapping into this power for millennium before it went down. But did they fully recharge it? Is there different draws by the different colors? Is there different things that are going to pull into it? I think that for me was a cool concept, in that they keep throwing out these different ideas. And they're like, well, yeah, we replenished it, but how much? We don't know. And it's, kind of a neat thought behind it that they don't really know. And, on one hand, it's, part of me wants to know the truth, but I'm liking the fact that this mystery is unfolding, and this is a mystery that may never get explained. This could be a dangling thread for the rest of the time, or we could later have a second Lights Out event, or something where we learn a little bit more about what's going on with the emotional spectrum. Or there's so many possibilities of stories, and it's people reacting in a very true and real way to this. If everybody was on board, if everybody was just completely, okay, back in line, let's do this, it wouldn't make sense. We're different planets, we're different people, we're different ideologies. We need to see that, and we're getting that in these characters. And I was like, that for me is something that I need to get in Green Lantern Corps. I need to have that diversity of the Corps itself. It can't just be, I'm glad that John's got a main title, and he's one of the main guys here, because John Stewart's my favorite Lantern. So I'm glad I got a home for him. But the fact that it can't just be about John, it has to be about the Corps. And that is one of the things that makes me really happy and enjoying where this is going.
I agree with you 110%. One of the things I really like about the way they've structured the books right now is they've given John a book to be spotlighted in, though. I say that agreeing 110% with everything, because that to me has been the strength of Green Lantern Corps, is you don't just focus on one lantern, you focus on the others, but there's always a lead Earth Lantern. And to have John Stewart without having a second guy, if that makes sense, in the book as the lead, I think is really critical right now, because he's a character like you. I've really enjoyed the increased character development of him. I've enjoyed getting to know him. And Core is really, I mean, these issues, the relationship with him and Yira is stuff that, like, if you had told me years ago they were going to put these two together in a relationship, I would have been like, are you insane? And wow, is it working? And it's cool. And I love that it's not clean for them. And as a couple, they have to, I like, you talk about like some of the good things in comics that you can learn from. I like that as a couple, they have to talk through things. They have to understand and try to get in the head of each other to be sympathetic to where they're at and what they're thinking. And it just shows the strength of the couple. There's a lot to be learned with the way these two characters are written, and I really like the dynamic. They're two of my favorite characters right now going in the Green Lantern books, just because that relationship is so strong. To me, if you don't have relationships like this going in comics in general, you're really missing a major component to what works in serialized storytelling. This is really awesome for that particular aspect of it. So I'm with you. John Stewart, yay, amen. He's very cool. Now, with the rest of the core that they're mentioning, we can't ignore the fact that what's been going on behind the scenes is the Durlans have been invading. And they've been infiltrating the Lantern Corps at a variety of different levels, setting up a situation that is really a smear campaign to destroy the core from within. That's the problem with shapeshifters, and I think using them in this capacity is really, really great. You're taking something that, at least in my experience, I'm used to this happening in Legion of Superheroes, not in present day. I like this being brought in here. The core have faced some very, very tough situations. The fact that now it's leading to a situation where, well, we're going to talk about the issue. Can we just throw it out there? The public knows what's going on now, and that's something they're going to have to deal with. It has been revealed that any time the Green Lanterns are using their ring, they could be killing the universe. That being thrown out there is going to change not just on Earth, because we're used to this happening on Earth. Universe-wide, there are going to be people who previously supported the Green Lanterns that can't now. And even if they have leaders on planets who have been sympathetic to the core, who have used the core for protection, they have to question whether or not morally and ethically that's okay, but also take that ethical part out of it politically. If you support the Green Lanterns, what is that going to do with your people's relationship with you if you are a leader on that planet? You got huge problems going on here for the core. This kind of political intrigue is something that in space opera, if you do it right, it's really cool. It is being done right here. You take this big mammoth event that they did with Lights Out with Relic, this villain that it was, you could see what he was doing. There was a moral side to Relic. It's kind of like what we talk about with Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor believes he's doing the right thing and helping. There were actually people on the core who were believing Relic's side of it. Kyle was a big one going, hey, wait a minute. Dude's got a point.
He's right.
I mean, and we might not agree with what he's doing and how he's going about it, but philosophically, where he's coming from, you can't argue with what some of the things that he's saying here. That becomes a huge issue when you've got a villain like that. Makes an interesting villain to me when you can immediately introduce them. I loved how the Lights Out story was crafted, because we got introduced to Relic and got to know Relic for a long time as this like world-dominating destroyer. Then we got that 0 month issue with him, where we got to, or Villains Month issue, I should say, with him, where it was Relic issue 0, where we got to see Relic's backstory, and then we flashed back into the main event. And wow, was that a well thought out, well told story? I want to see Relic back again at some point. We're going to. They didn't kill Relic. They put Relic in the source wall. I mean, there's always an avenue for return from that. Not right away, because the game that's being played right now needs to really play out for a while before we bring back Relic. But boy, when we do, that's going to be something that's neat to see, because they barely won. And I don't know how much of a victory that is when, look at the loss.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a victory with parentheses around it. You're like, it's a victory. You really don't know what the can you call it, and how much, and even how much of a victory was it? All of the entities except for Parallax are now gone. Everybody except for a couple people think Kyle, Rayner sacrificed himself and is gone. So now you have, the White Lantern who's out there, but even there's something more coming down the line, because the Guardians have told, are talking over in a New Guardians book that something else is coming. And we're seeing some groundworks of a universal war playing out in these issues. So is that the beginning, or is there something beyond the war? You think about the Justice League 3000, where they say that the Green Lanterns were the most hated organization in the universe. Well, we're starting to see the birth of that hatred. We're starting to see what happened to them. This right here is a great initial, political smear campaign. A great, just a beautiful double cross and triple cross that I was like, dang, this is kind of cool that we know the future, something really bad is going to happen. Well, guess what? We're seeing the groundwork being laid down for either that horrific event, or this is just the first act of a multi-act event going on.
Now, my understanding is the way the future of the DC Universe is working right now, and I could be wrong on this, but my understanding is that Legion of Superheroes happened in Earth 2. Justice League 3000 is happening on Earth proper, this Earth that we're mentioning. So you're throwing out there that the Green Lantern Corps are the most hated in the universe, and how that plays in Justice League 3000 is well met, because that really is a part of the history for Justice League 3000, and we're seeing it play out here, which is really interesting. I'm quite enjoying that part of it. I like also, when you talked about planets earlier, in this story where we have furthering the Durlan story on Dranks, it's Druck, if I'm pronouncing it right, his planet. Yeah. And I love that he's a politician. he's basically
a gladiator, but that's the politicians. Right. They settle their matters in violence, in combat. And I'm like, all right, okay, there we go.
What an interesting character. And with the fact that he's lost one arm, that he comes home and it's almost a sign of, not almost, it is a sign of weakness in their eyes. He's somehow diminished by not having the limb. There's a certain amount of jealousy with the fact that he's a Green Lantern, which in many ways he didn't complete his full cycle to go to the next level of their planet, which that's the kind of stuff, learning their politics partway through all of this is something that I really, really have enjoyed through these stories. I like when creators take the time to flesh out a world during the story. Instead of giving us a lot of exposition in the beginning, we find out a lot about this planet through action and through setup events and things that are going on that further the main story of the Green Lantern Corps book, further their adversaries, the Durlans, what's going on there. This political smashing down of the Green Lantern Corps, I just think is brilliant, because I want to see the Durlans beat so bad. And here's the thing, in the end, even if the Green Lantern Corps comes back and defeats the Durlans in some way, the damage has been done. This is not something you're going to be able to wipe clean, because there's certain things that they've thrown out there that are true. And the way that they've been presented, whether you like it or not, is still going to slap you in the face. This is the great way of introducing a villain into the series. I didn't see this coming at all. I wonder if what they're doing here is going to lead to this universal war that you're mentioning.
This has got to be the first volley of the war.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, we see in Green Lantern 27, really, the beginning of the revolution has begun. And it's the Durlans are just, it's absolutely wonderful. I'm loving how they took multiple series. We've got Green Lantern Corps, we've got Green Lantern, really telling this tale of what's going on throughout them. And they're definitely connected, and you get that global, that universal Green Lantern feel to it, but each one is telling it within their own story. So they're not derailing their story being told to further this story. And if you're only reading the one Green Lantern Corps, you're going to see what's happening, and you're going to get the groove. It's not one of those things where like, oh, I didn't read them in the correct order. No, there is no quote-unquote correct order to read them. You just read and enjoy, and you're getting more explanation, more exploration of this, of the revolution. And I really like that. And it's something that the Green books have done really well for a very long time, that they handle what seems like a massive, massive universe-shaking event, but it's told completely within the confines of their own title. They don't need to do an extra story, limited series or an extra special event type of to tell these massive events going on. And I think that it has been and still continues to be the strength of the Green books.
Yeah, it's something we're enjoying in the Bat books as well.
Yeah, definitely.
An overarching larger event happens, and when that event happens, it causes a status quo change. We've got that coming with what's going on with Nightwing in the Bat books. Did you look at that teaser image, that Thanksgiving one?
The Bat Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have.
Did you really look at it?
I'm going to say no by the way you said that, because I thought it was kind of a neat thing, but I didn't really see any,
it's hints to the future. You've got to really look at that thing. It's one of those double-page teasers that we've gotten in the past. That wasn't just a throwaway. There's a whole bunch of stuff hidden in that image. So it's one of those you really want to go back and look at. I almost would love to see them do one for Green Lantern right now for similar reasons. Because I love those kind of things where you can see little clues hidden throughout there. There's tons of them in that Bat image. And the reason why I'm mentioning it here, I think there's a lot of interesting parallels in what's working in the Bat books to what's working here. In some ways, I think they're even doing that a little better over here in the Green books. And I got to be careful because I love the Bat books. So I'm not like trying to throw them under the bus. I'm a Batman junkie, and I honestly have not been happier reading Batman than and the whole Bat family than I have now. But this is really tight over here, what they're doing. And a lot of it is what you're saying. There's room for an overarching story that's going on, but they've also allowed for some creative development of these characters through the individual writers in their book. I'm with you. I like that I don't have to read them in any particular order unless there's a lights out crossover or something going on where they've properly labeled it. But in this case, I can read a couple of issues of Green Lantern Corps together, and I'm getting a complete story. I don't have to have read Green Lantern to read this, New Guardians to read this. I can read them in whatever order I want to. And, I get behind sometimes on my reading, especially when we're doing certain themed episodes on our show. I'll be doing a lot of rereading in that theme. So sometimes, it might be a couple of months where I get behind on certain books. I love this when I can go and read a couple of them together back to back and really delve into their story. In some ways, they read better that way. Sometimes that's why I like doing a reread with like 2 or 3 issues, because I think you get a greater sense of the global theme of that particular title. And wow, Green Lantern Corps is one of those books that, once again, we talked about this when Peter Tomasi was writing this book, how this was the book that is your favorite book, Green Lantern or Green Lantern Corps? Ugh, that's a tough question to answer. I remember those days of really having that debate. Yeah. And I feel that's still on the table. I love Arisia going along and getting a spotlight here, where she was sent along to kind of babysit, so to speak. And rightfully so. This is something where, as a group, they're trying to kind of, it's a military organization or a police organization, whatever. You're going to send somebody who's more of a senior officer along with people who are more rookies to make sure that you don't cause a political nightmare for yourself. In the case of this, you've got one planet who's looking to the Coons to get, I guess, a different sense of protection. There's a lot of forces, there's a lot of races out there that are the ones that are saying, hey, we want to get you under our banner. Why don't you become a part of our group? We are the alternative to the Green Lantern Corps. Our race is a warrior race. The Coons are that, definitely that. That's something that I think is very interesting in this, and I wonder if it's going to lead to a war between the races that are gathering power. I don't know. And will this be something where the Sinestro Corps will play a piece into it, or will it just be a universal battle between different races? I don't know. And how do the Red Lanterns play into all this? Because they're a political faction that are taking power on a different level in all this. There's a lot of pieces on the table. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, the one thing that is catching my attention is the fact that we have these other races. We have these other warrior classes that are using this universal strife to increase their own power. And it makes sense for them to do what they're doing. And with these people openly accepting and saying, yes, we want this, we no longer want the Green Lantern Corps. What happens when those groups start oppressing the people they're supposed to protect? Will the Green Lanterns come in? Can the Green Lanterns come in? It's that you think about Star Trek with the Prime Directive, where they can't interfere with the society. Well, this society selected this group to be their champion, to be their guardian. Well, guess what? That people they selected to be their guardians are now enslaving them. So should they come in? Should they say, hey, you made your bed, now lie in it? What's going to be the line? What's going to happen there? And if the Corps does sweep in to save the day, how will the other people look at it? If we have this one society here that has their sworn protectors, the Green Lantern Corps comes in, takes out the people that the planet said they want to protect them, well, guess what? The Green Lantern Corps just took over and just did an invasion. They just took out this society the sworn guardians for this one society. How does anybody on the outside look at that and not see that as a universal act of aggression? It's going to be some cool stuff going on, and there's so much more that you can look at present day society and what we have going, all the craziness we have going on around the world with up turmoil and political intrigue and just various factions throughout our own planet of just people saying this, we're right, no, we're right, okay, let's kill each other. We're gonna see that kind of stuff going on in this, and I think that's going to be one of those again, just a comic book that's going to tell a story that's well beyond what the actual pages are saying. There's going to be these creators. These creators have just this wonderful, wonderful tapestry to work with now, and I'm like, wow, this is again, it's eager anticipation for future stuff is just through the roof right now with Green Lantern. Especially, I want to see more dealings and problems between John Stewart and Hal Jordan. They each have a different way of looking at things, and we get an initial impact here, but as things go down the line, it's going to get even worse.
I don't know about that. And let me explain why. As you're watching this whole thing with John and Hal breaking down, Hal's listening to him.
Yeah.
Because he didn't throw back. And John was right to do what he did. Because Hal's, basically talking about the need to police everybody else who's got a ring. And I love Hal. I'm questioning his philosophy on this, too. Because what makes it the Green Lantern Corps the right ones to wear the rings? And he's making quite the assumption there. John's like sitting there going, hey, wait a minute. You're going to go after my girlfriend, my best friend. Who are you to do that? How do you have the right to make that judgment call? And he's really in his face saying, this philosophy, you shouldn't be the one to lead with this kind of philosophy. And Hal's come back saying, hey, I didn't choose this. I was chosen for this. I'm doing the best that I can. And he even says at some point, I probably deserve that, what you threw here. He is listening. He's taking in what John's saying. That part of the leadership, I actually really like from Hal. Because Hal's got a lot that's been thrust on him. With the Guardians being gone, he's been tasked with keeping this group together, holding it all in place so it doesn't splinter off any further. Especially with being saddled with what happened with Relic and the division that's happening within the Corps. So there's a definite, Hal's got to be this politician that listens to both sides, tries to understand both sides, and somehow tries to overcome all of this, which we've seen he isn't always good at. I like this kind of thing. It shows a great deal of understanding between both writers who were involved with this one, with these characters and how to play them off of each other. I agree with you that I think there's going to be more of this kind of drama between the two of them. I think what's going to happen is we're going to see John Stewart step up into more of a leadership role because of this, where he's going to be in many ways Hal's conscience, kind of what Kilowog's doing to a certain extent, but maybe even greater in John's role. I hope. Go ahead. Well,
what I'm saying, and you're kind of hitting the nail on the head what I'm talking about here with these two going at it. And I'm not gonna. I don't think we're gonna get. When I say going at it, I don't think we're gonna have the drag down, knockdown, drag out brawl of these two going at it, fighting for control of the Corps. It's going to be kind of the thing where you're saying where he's going to be kind of the conscience. He's going to be that person, because throughout this initial part, it was some really cool stuff that you mentioned. How Hal wasn't swinging back, Hal wasn't fighting back, Hal was letting him, throw the punches and just letting him kind of vent and get that out. And then they had this conversation, that discussion about how we are the Corps. I am not the Corps. This has got to be us together. We got to work this. We got to work through this. So Hal does have those leadership qualities, but in the end, I think Hal will take. And it's funny because John's the military guy, Well, Hal is as well, but I always see John more as the military discipline guy.
Agreed.
But Hal is taking a more militant role in how he does this and how he's handling this. And on one hand, you kind of understand where your back's up against the wall. You kind of have to be a little bit more abrupt. But, you got John, on the other hand, who's looking at the bigger picture. He's looking at kind of, hey, how is this going down? And even Kilowog makes a couple comments to Hal about looking at the big picture. You got to keep your eye on what everything is and not just focus on the little dots. That, I think, is where we're going to get conflict. We're going to get these moments between these two where, in the end, you could run into will there need to be a leadership change? And would Hal recognize that, hey, I'm not the right guy for the job? Maybe Jon Stewart is, or maybe somebody else is, or maybe there's something else they can go with.
Yeah, and I don't know what the answer. That's great storytelling.
Yeah.
To me, that's the kind of thing that I want to read about. I want to know where these characters are going to go. I like that we see Hal has been the guy that when there's a crisis and there's a big bad, he's your guy that will rally you against the big bad. And you want to go into battle following Hal. People who are like that traditionally have trouble afterwards with dealing with the day-to-day stuff. When things slow down, how do you deal with that? That's where you really need advisors, are the people who can kind of take a look at the big picture that you're mentioning. And we are seeing this the same way. You're 100% correct. The relationship between Hal and John. To me, that's, if you're going to put characters in a comic and flesh them out really well, there should be some conflict there. There's conflict between friends for the same reason. People have different backgrounds, different experiences, different families, different friends that they've grown up with. And they're influenced by that, which is going to influence those relationships. I don't have any friend of mine that I agree with 100% of the time or agree with me 100%. And they're right not to agree with me all the time. You need that. That's part of why we have those people close to us. We value the differences and what they bring to the table. This is really, really cool when you get deep on this level with it. The one thing with John, I'm sorry, I'll go to you real quick. I don't want to gloss over this, the fact that John was going to leave with Yira. We saw John debating that, but John had actually come to a decision that he wanted to do this and that he was going to retire and put this all behind him. Now, responsibility-wise, he knows that he can't. I like the way he's handling it, though, because he doesn't seem downtrodden. Sometimes when you have characters that do this in comics, it's like the end of the world when this happens. John's handling it in stride, recognizing, again, the big picture, and saying, this is what I got to do. And he's accepting it. He's taking that role. He knows he's going to have a conversation with Yira about it. There's something about the peace that John's at, and peace is maybe a strong word because obviously there's a part of him that's torn, but I like that it's not the grim Reaper kind of thing going on with him, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I find that a refreshing approach too, because it goes back to what you're saying. He's a military guy. He sees the situation, recognizes the need for this kind of leadership, and his role as an architect, his role as a military leader, he is in a position to help build something here, to make this work. He's needed for that purpose. He's taking that role, really kind of going with it, and I like it. To me, it's great Jon Stewart storytelling. This whole issue was an absolute home run with that.
Yeah, and again, showing just the strength of her strength in that she's supporting his decision. She's like, hey, one of the things that I'm in love with you about is your sense of loyalty, is your sense of responsibility, is just who you are. And she sees that he needs to stay around. He needs to be in the Corps, not for his own personal glory, not for his own personal, I can't get by without it. No, for the greater good. He has to make that sacrifice, but it's not going to be, oh, everything's terrible, I'm making this terrible sacrifice, the burden on me. No, this is what needs to be done. And it's still leaving out there the possibility of him retiring, of him walking away from the Corps if it's in a much better place, a much stronger place, and those two having their own life together, which, again, it's something I would love to see those two, this is a couple that I would like to see, them go with the marriage. This is somebody who could actually, these two characters could pull off a married superhero and not lose a bit of steam, not lose a spark or fire because who they are, because this is what they have to do, and this is their job. This is their part of who they are.
Or even if they do, let's say they do lose steam at some point. That's interesting storytelling. It's realistic. There's there's a character drama in there that unfolds that's interesting as well. And maybe events will mean that it doesn't for them. That's why I'm not into the whole no marriage thing that the higher-ups at DC kind of seem to feel that there's a need for. Because to me, that's interesting. Now, you don't want to marry everybody off, and you don't want all those and if you do marry people off, you don't necessarily want them all to work, because that's the real world. They can try, you root for them, as you do any marriage between any couple, any relationship. Forget marriages, any relationship. You want people to be happy, especially if you care about both people that are involved in that relationship. You want that to work. But sometimes there's events that spiral out of control that nobody has any control over, no matter your best intentions. You can really care about somebody, and it just doesn't work. And for whatever reason, sometimes life doesn't let it. That's interesting. That makes for great character drama. So to limit that, I still, to this day, I don't understand it. It doesn't make why would you limit that part of storytelling? The Batwoman thing still baffles me.
Yeah.
If they were intending to do that, they should have let it go. Where does it go? It doesn't have to stay that way. They often don't. You see it all the time. So I don't know. That's interesting. I liked when he had the conversation with Yura, because I'm with you. I could see a future between the two of them. But what I really loved, as that whole thing was terraforming and being built, anytime you create a base for any hero group, it should look really cool. This looked really cool out of the starting gate. It had enough of the classic stuff that you would see on Oa that you're like, oh yeah, the artifacts are there. But it also looked new, sleek. It took advantage of the fact that it's being built into a living planet. And with that cooperation with Mogo, you get something that looks alive and breathing in spite of it all, with limitations that we're going to see later. There's certain things that Mogo can't create that have to be brought in because it's a living planet. It can create certain structures, but other things need to be added in along the way. I like that. It's this whole kind of balance that they're trying to find on their new world that I think is great. I like seeing the building process of the base. That myself is just, I don't know, that kind of stuff is cool. You don't get to see it very often, and it should matter and mean something when you're going to do it in the comic. I thought that sequence was great because so much was going on during it.
Yeah, and it's, I was kind of chuckling in a way about, the fact that they're really taxing Mogo to do a lot of stuff. Now, granted, Mogo isn't going to complain about it. This is part of, her duty to the Corps, and she's going to, like any other Lantern, she's going to do what needs to be done. And I like the fact that, though, it's the whole concept of Mother Earth and coming back from the Earth and just that natural thing, and it's just erupting from her, but it's not even, she's a living planet. So there's such, kind of that cool dichotomy of the fact that this is a planet, but this is a person, this is a entity, a living entity. No, it's now a building. No, it's over here. It's a jungle over here. And it's a neat thing that you can get away with in a comic book. And, again, Mogo is a character that they've been developing. When they first destroyed her, and then she pulled herself back together again. And then every single time there's those big Mogo appearances, I'm like, yeah! Because, I'm cheering for a planet, but it's still a very cool planet. And just, even John Stewart's connection and relationship and friendship and trust that he has for Mogo is evident, and it's something that even continues to grow.
I love where those two are at relationship-wise after everything that happened, with John being involved in the original destruction of Mogo. It's something that, again, you're not throwing out the past by moving towards the future. And you don't have to be beholden to it or have to remind us of it all the time. You just have to leave things open-ended enough that people that have been reading that can feel a connection to what happened before and keep moving forward in a way where we connected ourselves because you leave it in a place where you feel like you can. I think that's really cool. Back on Dranks, the assassin bit was really cool because you could totally see why the public was looking for that. Because, there's that debate up there. Should the Coons be the ones that are protecting us, or is it the Green Lantern Corps that we should be sticking with at this point? Well, now all of a sudden, as assassins there, this politically would play into the favor of a whole other faction.
Yeah.
So you could see them embracing this without really putting a lot of interest in investigating whether or not it was actually a Green Lantern Corps member that did it. Person's dead no matter what you do. Why don't we use it politically? That happens in politics. It's ethically completely wrong, but it's played into the favor of one group because of the fact, so these shapeshifters know that. And that's something where you get, to me, a great shapeshifter is one that gets very sneaky and accomplishes things that no other character in the book could. I loved every bit of this sequence for that.
And even when the truth is exposed, it doesn't matter. They expose the fact that it was a laser that did it, not a Green Lantern ring, but it doesn't matter. So even down the line, when the Durlons are exposed for being behind all this stuff, guess what? It won't matter overall. They'll get a couple people back on their side. Maybe Earth will come around, or I don't know. They'll get some of their allies back. But there'll be a majority of people who will say, you know what? How do we know this is not fake? How do we know this is real? There's the whole conspiracy theorist mindset that once the truth is kind of questioned, it's always going to be questioned. And this is, again, a great usage of political intrigue, a great usage of these shapeshifters, a great usage of a villain force. And in the end, we're going to see, why do the Durlans have such a hatred towards the Green Lantern Corps? We haven't really seen that yet, have we?
It's the same reason anyone else does. The Green Lantern Corps has created a police state that has kept certain races from being able to accomplish their goals. So if you eliminate the Corps, it gives you free reign to have the same kind of control that they perceive the Corps as having. So it's all about power and control. And if there is a major force that's standing in the way of control that you want to take, you want to eliminate them. And the only way to do that is the way that the Durlans are doing it. They can't match power with the Corps. They know that. But they can do things to the Corps politically that they can't see coming. And there's something that's great about that. And just, because we see things unraveling. Because you're right, in that certain sequence, when on Dranks, it's revealed what happened. The first question comes up, like, we believe a member of the Corps.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to defend your own. And Druk really, when Druk's leaving, wow, this is no longer my home. The Corps is my home. And having to really come to that conclusion of saying, I've just been basically ostracized by my people because they don't believe me and trust me because I'm wearing this outfit. That is something I would imagine people in the military will go through that from time to time because of the politics of our world, where because of the responsibilities that's on a soldier with some of the things they do, they sometimes probably lose a connection or feel like people don't understand what they go through, understandably so. Because I'll admit this, I have a ton of respect for the military. But do I understand everything a soldier goes through? No, I can't possibly understand that. And I want to, but I think unless you're there, unless you've been through what they've been through, there's a certain camaraderie that soldiers have probably for each other in their understanding of a common place that they've been, through obviously probably things that have been very terrifying, but they've had to step up because it's things that they believe in or things that they were ordered to do or whatever, for the sake of protecting us and furthering, the goals of our country and things like that I am not going to be able to understand because I haven't been there. That kind of stuff plays out here in this story in a way that I think if you connect it to the real world, wow, I get why he's leaving there. I'm like, it's that's something that I haven't thought about. That's that connection to real world. I think is something I think police probably go through the same thing, to a certain extent, for the same reasons because their role to serve and protect and wearing that uniform separates them in many ways from people in society because of that kind of leadership that they need to take on. And I don't know, there's something that's interesting about that. I don't know. I think it's an interesting piece in this story where you can look at the people that protect us the same way. It's cool.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say about Green Lantern Corps?
Well, quick comment on the issue 25, the 0 year.
Go for it.
Well, now I loved this story, so I'm not knocking the story in any way, shape, or form. I think this was an absolutely wonderful John Stewart story, gave a great background into who he is, but also showed, just John's character, plus nice introduction of anarchy and just everything that, in the Bat universe, and a really cool tie-in connection, again, that these 0 year stories are doing throughout these different stuff. But there is one little, and it's a nitpick thing, and it's funny because you and I had a conversation, and you're like, bring it up on the show. Like, oh, okay. John's lieutenant. Mm-hmm. He's got gray hair. Now, this isn't the same as my military haircut argument I had before, long at the beginning of the very dawn of this comic. A lieutenant is the youngest officer. Those are the guys who are fresh, straight out of college. They're, typically that's where it is. Now, you can get older officers, who are lieutenants, especially if prior military service, or, people who are enlisted, who are like sergeants who then go on to become officers. But as a tradition, as a typical rule, they're young, fresh-faced kids. And it was just something that when I saw the green hair and the streaks, and I loved the story. I loved what the guy was doing and how he was doing it, and how they're showing what John was doing different, how John was looked at the problem differently, and everything that happened there. It was just one of those things that I kept seeing the gray hair, and I'm like, but he should be fresh out of college. He shouldn't have that gray.
Here's a question I have. With the fact that in that sequence he kind of lost it and was going off on the guy, do you think that was part of the history of that character, where he kept beating him? Do you think that might be a part of his? Would that? I guess what my question is, would that keep him from moving forward?
Yes and no, but he would have been out if those kind of problems because when an officer strikes, they're enlisted, they're non-commissioned officers. The officer is going to get in a lot more trouble than the enlisted does, because they failed to maintain command of their unit. If you have to hit your people, if you have to smack them around to get them to do what you want, guess what? You are no longer in control. You are no longer a true leader of that unit, and you will be quickly replaced. So bad officers usually get removed, especially from combat arms units. This is recon unit. This is some serious. These are serious frontline fighters who open up a can. So. If you've got that hothead, if you've got that guy that can't handle it, he's not going to be in charge for long.
Do they always, though? And this isn't me, and so I think with any structure, there's always going to be people that know people and things like that. And this isn't me trying to bash the military or anything like that. I think that's true of any company, of any political structure, there's people who know people, if that makes sense.
Oh, big time. And and that's not trashing that.
No, and that's I want to clarify though that I'm not trying to say anything that's anti-military or any group, because you can take military out of it and just any kind of group of people. You're going to have those situations that arise.
Yeah, you're going to have good people and you're going to have bad people. In any single entity out there, you're going to have your good and your bad within that. Especially within military, there are certain, military and police, you get a certain mindset of people who will gravitate towards those careers. And you do get a lot of these power hungry, you get a lot of these jerks in there. But part of the process, again, is, that brotherhood. And part of it is you learn from it and you change, and you weed out you temper the fire. You temper the metal with fire, and you get a stronger, steel from it, and that's the kind of stuff that you get from these units. Now, could a guy whose daddy is a general continue on and make it through, or have political connections? Definitely. That happens, unfortunately, even in the real world. Definitely could happen in the comic book universe. And it's, stuff like this where as I was looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, it could be this, it could be that. Again, prior military could be, this guy could have been a sergeant, a longtime sergeant. Then because of the recent wars, he goes on to officer, candidate school. So he becomes an officer. So he's an older officer. So there's a lot of stuff that I could, very easily justify this. And that's actually why I say this is a nitpick on my part, because I could, without batting an eye, I was able to come up with half a dozen explanations as to why an older guy was a lieutenant. It was just one of those things that when I saw it, it was the first thought that popped in my head. It was like, he's too old. That was the first thought that popped in my head, but it didn't take me out of the story. It didn't make me dislike the story. I loved the story, and I loved how he was the antagonist for John. And again, you're seeing John Stewart, not, sink to this guy's level. You see him staying true to who he is. It's the best, usually the correct decision is the hardest decision to make, and we see that in John. We see that currently in the Green Lantern Corps. We're seeing that is from his foundation and from his roots, and it's kind of a neat thing to see, especially with all the current stuff that's going on and the anticipation of what's going to come to the future. You see this foundation of who he is and why he left the Corps.
I love when Batman goes up behind him. Batman was really questioning whether or not he should take this guy down, because in his mind, the military presence in certain situations, like what was presented here, goes against what he's trying to do. And I can imagine the military not being too happy with what Batman's doing either. That is something that I think is a reality of vigilantes. And I don't know, there was something that I really enjoyed about that sequence where he got behind him, but because of John's outward internal dialogue, talking to himself, Batman called himself off. Because he looked like he was ready to clock him.
Batman was ready to throw down. If he needed to, he was getting ready to neutralize what he perceived as a threat to Gotham. Mm-hmm. And if it is our own military, guess what? Batman will do what he needs to do. But again, John's character came through, and who John is and why he is, why the Ring eventually does select him, is very evident in this story. And I think that's a neat thing to have, this glimpse, 5 years ago.
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. I mean, to me, that's an important part of this story, to take that 5-year event to spotlight it. I mean, it's something that happened that I think was pretty critical to the whole book. Do you want to go on to New Guardians and have a chat about that? Because that's a pretty big book.
Our next discussion will be Green Lantern New Guardians, number 26. The writer is Justin Jordan, with Brad Walker, Geraldo Borge on pencils, Drew Hennessy, Mariah Benes, and J.P. Mayer on inks, Will Quintana and Hi-Fi for colors, Dave Sharp letters, with Brad Walker with Drew Hennessy and Will Quintana on cover. Chris Conroy is the editor, and Matt Idelson is the group editor.
Now, Kyle's book we really need to talk about.
Yes.
Because the universe at large thinks that he's dead because of what happened. Well, the Green Lantern Corps and all the other Corps think that he died saving our universe from Relic. And part of this reboot, or, replenishing that happened, was part of Kyle's sacrifice with the entities. The only person that knows that he's alive is Carol, which is really interesting. And I like the fact that I'm like, this is my buddy's girl. What's going on? This is kind of like the line that you don't cross, but yet I get how it happened. The two of them fell for each other, and sometimes you can't help that, but yet there's a discomfort there.
Yeah.
I like that because there's a reality to it. It was, the relationship that sort of developed, the unspoken relationship that sort of developed between the two of them has, I find that very intriguing because the fact that normally we think of her with Hal.
Yeah, and just, how she's, how Hal dealt with that when he found out about these two, and just everything that's, that is played out between them even. Between Hal and Carol, between Kyle and Carol. And then once if Hal ever finds out that Kyle's still alive, how is he going to deal with Kyle being around and the fact that he pulled Carol into what was going on and not him? Carol got pulled into this. Carol got, called into this whole adventure they got going on this other planet. And as this clears up, there's going to be more times when Carol gets called in, or when Carol deals with Hal. Is she going to let him know that Kyle's still alive?
No.
There's this great, three-peat, little triangle between the three of them that I'm like, ooh, this is some neat intrigue. I always wanted, I never thought I would want Kyle and Carol or any story like this that I was like, what? If you had told me this a year ago, I'd be like, what? But here I'm like, this is kind of neat. This is good.
Yeah, and I like how she found out, actually, because I want to talk a little bit about issue 25, because she was called by the Guardians to come there. She didn't know when she was first showing up on the scene that it was actually Kyle who needed her there.
Yeah.
That is an interesting part as well. That whole relationship, I was hoping that they would continue with the relationship of Kyle and Carol. I do not think she will tell, because I think there's a loyalty there. And for as frustrated as she is, I think she gets it too. Like, he's doing what he's doing to keep everybody safe, continue with his mission that he has with the Guardians, especially the more she's finding out about that mission. I don't know about you, but I really dig these Guardians, these new Guardians that are in there. I like them because they don't have the baggage that the old Guardians do, but they have the wisdom. To me, they're always what I've thought of the Guardians. They're like Ganthet. It's like a whole group of Ganthet. But they're also, in some ways, feel very alien, as Guardians should. And they defer a lot of times to their human friends, the other aliens that are friends of theirs, to help them understand the world at large too. I like that they don't immediately know everything, but they have a wealth of knowledge to share. That's, I think, what I really like about them. There seems to be a balance there that fits, that they know so much, and they're a resource you'd want to have around you, but there's also gaps in what they know because of how they've lived their lives and the fact that they've been, like, boxed away for how long. I like that. There's something about them that they need their relationship with Kyle as much as Kyle needs them.
And there's stuff they're not letting Kyle know. Mm-hmm. Even though they have this great relationship with him, they have this trust, and there's still pieces of the puzzle they're not letting Kyle know. Because part of it is probably because they figured Kyle needs to learn some of this stuff on his own, or two, if you give him too much information, it could push him, rush it through the process. There's got to be a natural way that he comes to this information. But also part of it is that little guardian, jerk quality that they sometimes have exhibited. Yeah. These guys still kind of have that. They're not as bad, but they still have that little secretive to them that makes me sometimes want to reach into the comic and smack them.
Yeah, that's something that I really enjoy as well. We got to talk about what's going on this planet that they're on. There's a machine that has been invented that allows them to go through alternate universes of their world and take the best events from them to change their world to make it the perfect world. So anything that could possibly go wrong. Let's use the recent financial collapse here, okay, that happened. We're in a period of recovery right now from that. And what level of recovery we're actually in on it is going to depend on who you talk to. But imagine if there was a machine that could stop that from ever happening. And you see that there was some kind of financial utopia that came out of that. It would be tempting to take that event and trade it for ours and to provide that for our people. But there's drastic consequences for that play out in this. I love it because you could see the temptation, but also understand how, again, going back to moral and ethics, that to me is what comic books deliver. They force you as a person, it's where it makes you a better person, to challenge yourself to look at things morally and ethically from a standpoint of understanding motivations. But you sit there and go, but you can't do that. But you can see the temptation. That's a good story for me. When you're sometimes left with conundrums where you're looking at that going, I get why they did it, but they shouldn't have. That's the part of this book that I really, really enjoy. And there were people in their world that were so emotionally upset by it. They're youngsters. The ones that are coming up, they're like, okay, I was raised. I'm at the age now where this is my path. I can make the choice to either keep this going, or I can go and try to be like a missionary almost by going to one of their worlds to try and make that world a better place because of what we did here. And some of them choose that path. They have chosen to leave their dimension, their version of their world, to go to the other version to try and make it better because they feel guilt over how perfect their society is because of that. Interesting sort of world that they have there, because you question how perfect it is with them doing this. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, and it's one of the things with me is, when I look at, society, and this is something just me general in my life, you sit there and you think, oh, I'd love to have just this perfect life. But in reality, it is a bit of the dirt. It is a bit of the grime that makes things, interesting. It makes things, it's the turmoil. It's, there is grief. There is pain. It's part of that makes the enjoyment and makes, just the good stuff that much more, better, because you had this moment of pain. Some of the times when I've laughed the loudest, and just laughed, just had those pure, deep, billowing laughters were after a period of pain, after a period of, sadness, and you have that moment where you're finally able to laugh, and you have that guffaw out loud, just that unleashing. And part of it is maybe it's grief and dealing with the grief and dealing with the pain, but also part of it is your acceptance and just, notice that living is about the good and the bad. Living is about that. And that's something when you have this perfect society where everything goes on and where everything is just all clean and perfect and pristine. And can you truly appreciate what great glory and goodness that you have if you don't see that darkness, if you don't have that darkness in your life?
The other thing is, too, there's a certain point to having your mistakes. Like, I've made mistakes in my life, and you learn from them at some point. Some mistakes you learn from quickly, other mistakes take you longer to learn from. But whatever they are, you become who you are through your mistakes and through learning from them. And, sometimes there's pain from that. Like, it'd be great, theoretically, to be able to go back and take a magic eraser and erase those, but then you also don't have the growth that you gain from those mistakes. From learning that you caused pain, or learning from the fact that you goofed up and look what the consequences are for yourself and things like that. You need that. That's a part of life. From childhood straight on through, it's a continual learning process. If you think your life's perfect, like this world, they think they have the perfect world, but they really don't, because this horrendous secret that they've got there, ethically and morally, they're kind of glossing over what that is, to the point, if they've got young people from their world who are so disgusted by what they're doing, they feel this need to leave their universe and everybody they know and love to go to this other alternate version of their world, even though there's going to be people there who are the same, quote unquote. They aren't. They're that version. They're that world's version, including another version of themselves, right?
Yeah.
So, like, wow, it's not as perfect as they're saying it is. And those are things that you need to learn from. We see that learning go on in this issue, where they come to a realization of, look what we've done and what it's brought upon us. As, the alternate version of the grandpa comes in and just goes, I had assumed these people were all monsters, but they really aren't all that different from us. And they came to really destroy the people that wronged them, but the realization is they have the same issues that we do. They just haven't seen it yet until this sequence. This was a really, really good story. I was talking before about how much I'm loving Green Lantern Corp. Boy, this New Guardians story, I'd be hard-pressed to say that this wasn't my favorite story going right now because of some of the events that are taking place in this book. It's a really great book.
Well, I'm really happy with the direction Kyle's going, with him staying as the White Lantern and him doing this journey and just the little side story and just his own adventure that he's got going down for him. When this is again, it's when as excited I was about Green Lantern Corps that's giving John his book, Kyle has his book, and it's not even just another Green book, really. It's Kyle with the Guardians, and Kyle exploring this role of who he is, Kyle dealing with Carol. There's so much more than just a simple, it's the story of the White Lantern. No, there's, again, the layers and the levels of the story being told. And we're getting plots and we're getting groundwork that's going to affect the whole Green universe, as we've already had, the ramifications that, Kyle had to deal with recharging the emotional spectrum. And the next big event within the universe is they're starting to indicate the groundwork and the base and the foundation is coming through in New Guardians, because the Guardians are seeing it. So it's, once again, there's going to be some interconnection. There's going to be some flow through the titles, but it's not that locked in, must read this to read this. No, it's an overall universe.
We've seen that before, though. That was how it was handled previously, and I always liked that. I liked that there were stories that were continuing to develop within those books, but there were those overarching themes that were in the background that you knew was going to lead to something bigger eventually, but we're getting character progression through the stories that are being told within the books. I think that's pretty critical, especially in Kyle's case, where he's realizing he's the only White Lantern. And there's a huge amount of responsibility on him to go, okay, every time I use my ring, what does that mean? What would happen if people realize that I'm the one that maybe recharged the universe? Maybe I didn't. He knows that the parallax entity wasn't there. That's something he's questioning. He knows that the other entities are gone permanently, maybe. Who knows? He doesn't know what all of that means. And he's trying to discover that along the way, too. The Guardians don't know either. And that's something that I think is, when you've got your most powerful, because arguably this is the book with the most powerful people in the Green Lantern universe in it right now, as far as at least on the good guy side. Mm-hmm. And they have a lot of questions about what's going on. I'm enjoying that this feels drastically different than the other two books, or the three books, if you count, and Larfleeze, four if you count Larfleeze. That's something that I'm really greatly enjoying.
Oh, yeah. And I enjoy seeing there's tech out there that can hurt a Green Lantern, that can take down Green Lanterns. It's not just yellow, how it was back when we were kids. That was their weakness. No, there's more to just general power. Mm-hmm. And there's different levels of energy that can actually do some damage to these characters, including the Reds. There's some stuff that can take out a Red. So I like seeing this, especially in this battle where Kyle, who is this supercharged, he's got all the colors spectrums, he's even throwing down, he's having problems because the tech he's dealing with is on such a whole nother level of, it's from the perfect planet. So this is the best of the best in that planet that he's now has to fight. So there's going to be another level. There's going to be some difficulty, and he's going to have to struggle, improvise, adapt, and overcome. And I love seeing that in a hero. I love seeing the scramble and, just them, have to, figure out a new level of strategery to get around the obstacles.
You had to sneak that in?
Every single time. Yeah. Hey, I get emails if I don't sneak it in.
From who?
People.
Who are these people?
People who listen to the show.
Uh-huh. Your family doesn't count. I gotta sneak it in. Yeah, I'm sure that there's this whole cult of strategery fans, and if there are, they need help. You know what? There is a perfect universe out there where the word strategery has been wiped out. That'd be the first thing I'd do if I got one of those machines. I'd get the gym that doesn't sing and doesn't use strategery. Oh, I don't know. This book has been one that I've really enjoyed because of Kyle. He's a character that he sometimes gets pushed to the background because he's, he was the Hal Jordan replacement, and once Hal was back, it was where does Kyle go? And I think they've done a wonderful job in the New 52 of reinvigorating. Jeff Johns and the whole team beforehand did a great job of reinvigorating him and making him an integral part. But I think in the New 52, even more so, they've really done it. I think making him the White Lantern was a brilliant choice because it really sets him aside. It makes him kind of the outlier, which he always was in the past because there wasn't the Corps when he originally got the ring. So Kyle didn't have those connections to the Green Lantern mythos that the other ones did. that came later. And there's something about having him in this kind of role that feels right for Kyle. Because out of, the other Earth Lanterns, I don't know who else I'd put in this position.
Yeah, he's definitely the right one for the job. I think John could have pulled it off just because John is super cool. Mm-hmm. But, Kyle, it does fit who he is. And Kyle's a character that I've gone up and down on, where I'm like, I don't know. Oh, that's kind of neat. And I really like the roller coaster. Kyle and Guy are the two lanterns that at different points in time in my life, I'm like, okay, this is a waste. Why do we have this? Get rid of them. But we're both characters. We're getting some great stuff out of them. And we're getting to see, a really cool lantern that, I easily say that John Stewart's my favorite lantern, but it's not a knock against, against Kyle or Hal or Guy. It's just saying it's my prime choice. I love pizza. It's my favorite food, but I'm not saying steaks are bad. No, steaks are awesome. Well, Kyle's a steak. Steaks are awesome. They're great, but it's just doesn't have my favorite food. And the same thing with the lanterns, with the core, with the story being told. This is an absolute wonderful story. I love it. And I'm eager anticipation for the possible future stories that we can get from this. The Green Book's on a whole nother level for me because there is so many different places they can go. We talked all about all the different political intrigue we're going to get from Green Lantern Corp. Well, now we have this White Lantern, and the truth is out there about the power spectrum and about what the Green Lantern Corp. What are people going to do when they see a White Lantern? Are they going to think, holy crud, is he pulling out more energy than green because he's got all the colors? Or are people not going to connect him with the Green Lanterns, not going to connect him with anybody else? But when he starts throwing down powers, when he starts building constructs, he's building green constructs because that's the color that he used for the constructs. Well, when they start seeing that, are they going to see a connection between him and the Green Lanterns, or are they going to see him as a separate entity? Again, stuff that happens with Kyle, there's a lot of mystery as to where this is going to go and where they can go with it, and that has me excited.
Is that why he's in hiding?
Yeah.
I liked the ending of this, in particular. The moment with him and Carol, where he's telling her, she goes, so you're leaving, and he basically is like, well, I don't tell you what to do, but yeah, I'm done here. And she has a debate with him, this laying down edicts is not you. He talks about, you can tell that he's not sure or is not happy. So sometimes the best solution, isn't the good one, those type of things, or is the bad one, and he said that I couldn't let them keep destroying futures. So I had to lay down the law. And if that's the way it has to be, that's the way it has to be. What a tough thing. But the Guardians are testing him. This was done on purpose because they're looking at him and going, he saw something beyond the source wall. They're coming. So whatever this battle the universe is going to face is, there's going to be an internal war that's going on with the universe. Is that going to leave them at risk for this other faction? Or is that other faction going to be a part of escalate? Because I'm almost wondering now if this battle that we're seeing in the universe is one thing. Whatever Kyle saw behind the source wall is something beyond that.
That's my thought. I'm thinking Kyle isn't the big universal war that's coming, because there's going to be a massive war. They're laying the groundwork for it. We're going to get something. That's the predecessor to what Kyle saw. And part of me, I'm thinking dealing with the source wall, dealing with the reservoir that's on the other side. What if the entities come out? And what if when the entities come back out of the source wall, they bring something or someone with them? Mm-hmm. And whether it's a return of Relic, Relic Part 2, or whether it's something even worse than maybe it's a whole nother bad that's out there that is, again, connected with the colors, connected with the emotional spectrum, connected with the base power. And that's what I think they're talking about, the Guardians. Just that next really big, oh my God, bad, how are we going to beat this? And I see that as the point in time when Hal learns that Kyle's still alive. Whenever that story plays out. And that'll be, and again, another interesting moment, because like you, I see Carol keeping Kyle's secret. Carol not telling Hal, not telling the other Lanterns that Kyle is still around, because he needs to do what he's going to do, and she's going to trust him on this. And that, again, will be a whole nother side story of what the heck, why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you tell me my friend was still alive? Much less, why didn't you tell me there was a White Lantern out there? Think of all the things that he could have helped us with, but you know what? He had his own stuff. He had his own mission. He had his own destiny that he had to go through. So there's again, a lot of cool stuff that can come down the line, and we don't really know when this is going to manifest, because I haven't heard or seen any type of spoilers where they say the next big event is this, and I'm glad they're not doing that, because I want them to leave it out there. I want them to let this grow, let this build. I'd love for another, it's been 2 years for the Lights Out event. I'd love to see another build for another couple years. I'm cool with them taking their time and building up to a powerful, cool story.
Yeah, they can take as long as they want for it. Because you know what, the one thing the Green Lantern universe does really well, they have little mini events that happen along the way. Sometimes they're within their own books. In many ways, these last couple issues of New Guardians felt like a mini event.
Oh, yeah.
And I like that. I like big stories being told within the titles, and I like crossovers that make sense. That's stuff that's really rich for me. So I've been really digging that.
Now, one of the things that with Kyle and Carol, and this is something that I've been thinking about for a while now with them and their love and connection and relationship and what it is, what it isn't. Could it be not a romantic type of relationship, but could it be a mutual respect, a friendship, but a friendship on a level that's not just two buddies hanging out?
Do you believe that?
I don't know.
I believe there's a romantic feeling there, and I think Hal was right to be. Let me clarify that. I think Hal's emotions of feeling jealousy were genuinely. There's reasons to feel that way, because I think Carol has noticed something in Kyle, and I think Kyle has noticed something in the relationship with Carol. The best relationships come out of a friendship and mutual respect.
Oh, definite. Yeah,
so I think there's something more there. I think in life you have a lot of situations that arise like that you choose to either let progress forward, or because of circumstance, because of friendship, because of other people involved, you choose to let stay where it's at, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dilemma. And I don't know. It's one of those situations where I think there's genuine feelings there. I think Carol's ring, I don't think that was a throwaway. I think what Carol's ring noticed when it came to Kyle is genuinely there. I think we know that from this. But I think everything you're saying is true. I think that's where it comes from. I think you have to have that beforehand. It's a difference between true love and infatuation, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
So I think it's there. I think everything you're saying is there. I think that's where it's come from. I don't think Carol and Kyle are in a place where they can admit that that's where their relationship is gone. But I think deep down, they know it. But they can't vocalize it. They haven't let it come to the surface, if that makes sense. Some things are buried so deep that if you ask the two of them, they might deny it, or we'll brush off the conversation, we'll do things for avoidance or whatever, because facing that is a whole other problem, if that makes sense.
Oh, definitely makes sense. And it's one of those things that I kept throwing around in my head of, what it is, what could the level be? What is it? Because I know when I first saw Hal's jealousy, I was like, oh, come on, dude. What the heck? And it wasn't even about you got a job to do. It was more of, I didn't see the love. I didn't see that. I saw it was like a respect. It was that camaraderie of them traveling, the hard traveling heroes type of story and that type of level. And then as I'm rereading stuff, as I'm rereading back issues and current issues, I start seeing is this a romantic love? Is this love that I'm feeling? What is this that is going on between these two? And I thought that was it's kind of, again, a neat exploration of love, affection, and romance in the comic book universe. You can have it in there. You can have these type of stories that, they don't turn this into a, soap opera. Or they don't turn this into, all lovey-dovey little story. It's something real, something solid.
A lovey-dovey little story.
Yeah.
But it could very much get there.
Yeah, but it's got a solid foundation of something cool. Like,
absolutely.
There's been a lot of different movies that I probably shouldn't enjoy. There's a lot of date night movies, that I probably they weren't written for me in mind, but I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. I like that. This is that same kind of vibe that, as I look at this, as I think about it, I'm like, hey, this could turn into something. This could be one of those moments where you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I really enjoy about comic books is when you get relationships like this that I think they're just interesting. Because of the fact that they do these kind of things with these characters. And I don't know. I mean, to me, it's always been Hal and Carol. They're soulmates and things like that. But I have to admit, reading over this, I see something more between Carol and Kyle that's very deep. Like, I would make a powerful argument that these two have some sort of potential future there as well.
Oh, definite. And I always thought Kyle with Natu, I was like, I always liked those two together, and I was like, oh, that'd be a great. I don't want to see that. I was mad when that relationship didn't actually happen. I'm like, oh, come on,
because they haven't had that relationship, right?
I don't think
in the New 52.
I don't think they have. Mm-hmm. But I'm not 100% certain on that. They could have had something that ended. But I don't know, and it's the thing with the revamping, and so I'm seeing Kyle go through his relationship with Carol. I'm like, okay, this is going to be the big Kyle relationship. I'm assuming Kyle's the one girlfriend that gets put in the refrigerator actually happened because they've shown
we know
they've shown clips of that. So Kyle has that pain. Kyle has that backstory. So we're getting that cool story for Kyle.
I'm going to be curious to see because I don't remember them in the New 52 referencing the relationship with Sornik. So I'm guessing until we've heard it referenced, it hasn't happened. I would be fine either way. Like if they reference it as happening, I love that relationship. If they don't reference it as happening, there's a chance to put them together again in the future, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's again, I really enjoyed that relationship. But part of it was also I was enjoying seeing Kyle, kind of, in a way step up and be a really cool Lantern. And he's get this life and they're developing the character. And it was all that, again, as I said, I was on a down trough for my enjoyment of Kyle. And that relationship brought him up. And I was like, okay, this is a cool superhero. This is a cool story. I'm digging this, especially because she had her own backstory. She had her own bag that she was dealing with. Plus, she was a really cool Green Lantern with who she was and how she handles things. So I was like, okay, this is some neat stuff going on. Now, with Kyle and Carol, it's that same thing. Well, I've got two really neat characters. Carol is another character that I thought she was cool because, there is a strength to her, but I never had that same respect and admiration that I had for, like, Lois Lane. But with the events that are going on with Carol, especially some of the more recent stuff, I'm really getting that same level of respect and character enjoyment that I get from Lois Lane that I'm getting from Carol. And it's not Carol and Hal, it's Carol and Kyle that I'm getting this from.
It's interesting when you say that you didn't have that kind of viewpoint with Carol, because I think having read this book for years, I did. So, I'm sorry, Carol and Hal, their right. kind of relationship. I did. So it's interesting for me to be sitting there saying to myself, wow, I'm okay with these two being together because I've had that history with them. I know it's a very interesting way that this book has laid this all out. I'm really enjoying the part of me that's protective of Hal and Carol kind of going, but yet these are two friends of mine that I can't argue with that, like, they should be together. And honestly, there's nowhere for Hal and Carol to go right now.
Yeah, especially with a lot of the edicts and everything that Hal is doing. There's a definite headbutting going on between him and Carol. And, she completely disagrees with this whole policing up all the other rings because she's looking at her own ring going, hey, when's the day where you're going to come after me? When's the day you're going to say, hey, we can't have you guys running around? Is that day ever going to happen? Are you going to sit there and say, no, the Star Sapphires can't exist anymore?
Well, where Hal is at in his stage of his life right now, he can't be with Carol.
No.
And that's the sad part. Two people can be like soulmates and incredibly well suited to be together, but sometimes where life is at for them, for whatever reason, one or both of them, they can't be together at that point. The part where the two of them went their separate ways, it was bittersweet because you can sit there and like look at them and go, no, you two are great together, but I get it. I mean, look where Hal's at right now. There's nowhere for that relationship to go right now. If anything, where Kyle's at right now is better suited for Carol. It really is.
Oh, definitely. And one of the things I'm actually looking forward to is the next time Kyle calls to Carol. Mm-hmm. Just seeing her reaction.
Do you think she's leaving? Or is she going to continue traveling with him?
Well, he took off and left. At the end of the issue, he's like, hey, so be it. And he took off. So he left on his own. And she was sitting there going, okay, what's going to happen? So I'm assuming she went her way, he went his. And they're separate right now.
The Guardians are still there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could see that going either way, and both options are interesting. I don't really have an answer for that. I was just kind of throwing it out there. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, as I said, my main thing is that they're right now separate, but they're going to get pulled back together. Mm-hmm. There's going to be something. Whether it's Carol hunting down Kyle saying, hey, dude, get your head out of here, and get your head on straight, or whether it's Kyle reaching out to Carol saying, hey, I could use a hand on this. And again, for him to call out, ask for the help, or the Guardians that call for Carol and ask her into the mix. There's going to be a definite that moment, and that's the moment I really want to see, because that's going to be a very telling for both of them as to how far they're willing to admit what they're feeling.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
We are Crystal Men from Mercury. We have no quarrel with you.
Hey, guys. Just listening to the show. Figured I'd call in. You guys were talking about what you thought was going to happen with Nightwing. Actually, I think we kind of have the answer already. I think we kind of already put it out there. The promo art piece, the Thanksgiving one, that's been floating around on the internet for a while. There's the blonde hero that kind of looks like Nightwing there. I actually think they're gonna kill, well, at least fake his death, kill him off, and he's going to just become a new hero. According to the world, they're gonna think Dick Grayson is dead, and some other guy with blonde hair is gonna show up on the scene, and they're gonna be doing his thing, and there's gonna be a new hero. And they're gonna name him something else, and I don't know. Maybe we'll get Nightwing back one day, but I think for a while it's gonna be some new guy. I don't know. Flamebird or the New 52 or something. So, I think the hint's right there in that artwork. So, I don't know. That's all I can come up with. Anyhow, great show, guys. And keep it up. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, it's funny. We recorded this in two parts, and actually I do at some point in time, either on this part or the second part, and I'm sorry, I don't remember. I talked to Jim about that teaser image, because I totally missed that the teaser image had the hidden clues in it. And then I went back and I was looking at it because, appeared obviously in a number of books. And I felt like a dunce because DC's done this so many times before and I love them. I think it's just a really cool thing. So I hope they continue to do stuff like this with these teaser images because I think they're really fantastic. And you're right. That's exactly, they're doing something with Nightwing's identity. And I'm anxious to see what it is. There's a whole bunch of clues in that on what's going on in the Bat universe. The Robin on top of the dog, I'm hoping that leads to, we're going to get some form of new Robin. But there was a lot of characters in there that had different things going on with them that I want to see how they play out. It's really cool to have those teaser images back again. So thanks for calling in and pointing that out. Admittedly, the number of times that I saw it beforehand, I completely missed it. And as of this recording was when I finally started to catch on to it when I was preparing for this and I was reading the Green books. I started rereading some of the books and I saw that image again. And I'm like, wait a minute. I think I completely missed a whole bunch of stuff. So,
guys, this is Jack Dower, and I've got several things to rant about, but I'm not going to take all day on your phone. Don't worry. But first thing is, I agree with Sean as far as one of the great bases, iconic bases in comic books is the Batcave. My other favorite one is the Baxter Building. Every new and good Fantastic Four writer has tweaked the Baxter Building and added to it. And they should, because Reed Richards, much like Batman, is always building, always creating, always exploring. And so things should look different every time you see it. The other thing I wanted to geek out about is Jeff Lemire. Jeff Lemire took over Green Arrow at a time when, this is how it started. When New 52 started, I decided to start reading Green Arrow on a consistent basis, and I had never done that before. I really liked the original team on the New 52. I don't remember who they were, but I was really a big fan of the book. And then Ann Nesenti took over with the robotic polar bears and stuff, and, you know, it wasn't horrible. I didn't quit the book, but I kind of lost the fire I had for it. Then Jeff Lemire comes on the book, and I am now passionately excited about this book the same way I am about the Arrow TV show. Is there any books you guys have read in the New 52 that might have hit a lull? Not necessarily in the sense of you were going to cancel it, but maybe there was a drop-off between teams, and now this new team has brought it back for you? Or am I like the only person that's experiencing this? Anyway, I love talking to you guys, and I'll talk to you later.
One that comes to mind to me is Catwoman. I've been wanting to talk. Actually, I'm glad you called in, Jack, because I'm putting the editing together for the podcast. And I was listening to some of the voicemails, and I had one for this one, Catwoman. Catwoman was one of those books where I kind of lost interest for a while. I don't want to say, like, you know, I wasn't, like you said about Green Arrow, I wasn't like in a dropping it category. It just wasn't hitting on me. I was stockpiling it. Which Catwoman for me, I'm as you're mentioning, I'm a Batman junkie, so, you know, it's easy. I'm an easy mark for a Catwoman book, and I just wasn't feeling it. But the recent arc, especially when the Penguin stuff started coming in, when she started having that battle with the Penguin, started kicking that book back up for me again. And I liked the stuff that was going on in the Gotham Underground and the sewers that she was doing with Joker's daughter. I thought that was a great storyline. So that was a book that I was not really super interested in, and recent story arcs have started to get that book back up the stack. That happens all the time. You know, the important thing about a comic book collection is that you have books that are on their highs that are keeping you interested. And there comes a point in time where if a book, you know, kind of hits that lull and the lull keeps going, it's to the point where you get crabby, which there's a lot of crabbiness you'll see around the internet from people. I think sometimes you just got to hit a point where you say, well, maybe I need to drop this title and grab something else. In the case of, you mentioned where Green Arrow's at for you now, Catwoman's there for me right now. I'm enjoying Catwoman again. And Green Arrow, I echo your compliments on it, because I'm loving the Arrow TV series. And I think it's no accident that when Jeff Lemire came on, there's a tone change that matches the television show, because there's a lot of popularity there, and they want that book to be. And I'm hoping there's people who are digging that show who maybe haven't read comics in a while, or maybe haven't given a comic a shot, that are really digging the show. They're like, well, let me try his comic book. And they're finding something to love there because of what Jeff Lemire's doing. I've enjoyed the book since its relaunch, and it's had, you're right, different creative teams that have tried to take it in different directions to try to hit this point. And for whatever reason, just the correct combination. Jeff Lemire as a writer is somebody I have a ton of respect for. Animal Man, in particular, and Sweet Tooth were books that just really put him on my radar as being somebody who I just really enjoy. And he's become a writer now. If he's writing something, Essex County is something I can recommend of his. I didn't read it when it originally came out. I was late to it, and I ended up picking it up digitally, and I love it. It's a great series by Jeff Lemire, and that he was doing that before his book Sweet Tooth, so I would give a recommendation of that to somebody, maybe such as yourself. If you're digging his Green Arrow work, you might want to read some of his other material if you haven't had a chance. It's just really, really good stuff. So I love Jeff Lemire. But Catwoman was a book that kind of fits on that radar for me. There's other books that have done that same thing for me, you know, where they kind of have fallen into that category, but then they pick up again. There's nothing that's hit that dropping range for me, though. But Catwoman was one I wanted. I told Jim, I said, I'd love to talk about this on the show, and you kind of gave me a great segue. So thanks for that.
You know, this is Jack, and I think I've come across where Midge ended up in the New 52. I was wondering what happened to him after Countdown, and of course we had Flashpoint. As you remember, monitors were able to go through time and dimension and all that. Well, I was just reading Howard Pyle's book, The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood, which is the original Robin Hood stories, and one of the titles of one of the chapters is Midge the Miller. So, here's my idea. Midge, after Flashpoint, was blasted back to Middle Ages England, lost his powers, and therefore had to become a miller so that he could, I don't know, rebuild a nuclear device to repower himself or something. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Midge ended up in merry old England around Sherwood Forest? Anyhow, talk to you later.
For those of you who don't know the story of Midge, back there was a weekly series called Countdown that DC produced. And during that, one of the featured characters was an unnamed monitor that was traveling around with the heroes, and we called him Midge, and it just became like a little show joke that we were doing. It was Jim Backwards, is really where it came from. We were wondering what happened to Midge, and lo and behold, Jack found him. I think that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? He escaped the New 52. He realized the writing was on the wall. I'm going to be written out of continuity, so I'm going to go to another universe. I don't know. It's kind of cool. I can see that. It would be a very DC thing to happen. He's on Earth like 49 or something like that, hanging out in the era of Robin Hood. I actually love the whole Robin Hood Sherwood Forest thing, so I haven't read that, so I'd love to see the story that came from. If you could actually shoot me a message and let me know what actual story, where I could find that, I would love to pick that up and read it. So thanks a lot.
There they are, all alone except for that old character.
I wanted to quickly shout out Rodney Ford and the Geek's Menagerie podcast. Episode 26 is up on Superheroes and Powers. Rodney and I were just chatting, and I wanted to give him a quick shout out because it's a cool show, and I'm actually just was listening to it before I started editing, so it was released on the 11th, so I wanted to give that one a quick shout out. I want to give a quick thank you to Vince Messimer. Vince, and I apologize if I butchered your name and all, but Vince sent me some pieces. He heard me mention on the show that I'm slowly collecting the Batman chess set, and he had a few extra pieces, including Batwoman, Batwing, and Alfred, and he sent me all three of them, and I really appreciate that. It was very kind of him to do. I wasn't looking for that. We were just shouting out some things that we were collecting, and through collectibles, that discussion came up. But thank you, Vince, for that. I really appreciate it. I also want to shout out show sponsors, DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Remember, you can pick up 100 Bullets, Brother Lano, the trade paperback, $16.99 regularly, 50% off only $8.49. You can also, from InStockTrades.com, pick up the Batman 66 TV Stories trade paperback. This is a 160-page book. It's $14.99 regularly, 50% off only $7.49. I want to thank DCBService.com, your pre-order source, and InStockTrades.com, your collected edition source, for supporting our show. We have a show voicemail line, and we love having you part of the show. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. So please feel free to call in any point in time with your thoughts, opinions, any corrections you have, things that you find out. I love the interactivity of this show. And it's things like the show voicemail line, our Facebook group, and just different social media communities that I really love. Our Facebook group community, if you haven't been there, it's the Raging Bullets Facebook group. Whether you're a casual fan of the show or you listen to every episode, there's something there for everybody. It's a community that's gone well beyond the podcast. It just happens to have a link to the show, but I think it's gone well beyond the podcast, and it's due to the quality people that are present there. So if you haven't checked it out, be sure to check out our show Facebook group. Over at Google Plus, we have a page. We have a regular Facebook page for the show. Jim and I have personal pages on Facebook, and I have a personal page on Google Plus as well. We have a RagingBullets.com website where I update regularly on what's going on with the show. That's linked to our Twitter account, and please feel free to follow us on Twitter if you want updates on the show as well. We try to be available on a lot of different medium. Obviously, first and foremost, it's always the podcast. But we've recorded our next episode, so if you'd like to send in any comments via the show voicemail line, please feel free to do so. We'd love to have it a part of our next episode. Jim, our next episode, we are going to be chatting more Green Lantern as we talk about Green Lantern 27, Red Lanterns 26, and we also talk about Suicide Squad number 26. We will see you partway through the week with that one.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman. can't see. Hawkman, your plan, and what you do to me. Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanin Guard or Egyptian, working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see.